and asking them to call members of the board of supervisors. One forwards me an email that she sent to 4 other representatives. It all comes down to whether or not the board votes for this or not. Because in the democratic process, the board can vote. The president did tell us something, and on Thursday, the board will go into a retreat. But the president did say if he didn't have enough votes for it to pass, he would pull it off the agenda. So, if you all know anybody, that benefited from your programs, that can come Friday morning, I'm just not thinking of Dr. Brown, then you might want to get him here. The Commissioner of Agriculture is coming. I met with him on Monday, and he said he would be here. We got farmers coming from all over the state. And here's our fearless leader. Let's give him a round of applause, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Consolidation of academic components of land grant with Southern University Agriculture and assessment of possible options. Thanks for coming in, and hopefully you're having a good day. I have paid lunch so I can be back. Did I see Dr. Eubanks? Where is she at? Right here. Hey, she's back in the back. Hey, Doc. Back there laying down too. Yeah, I mean, some of y'all look like y'all been spending most of y'all week just trumping from meeting to meeting. I know Walker is here, Sabatu is here, so let's hope these meetings. I know you're a little disappointed because Ray Belton is not going to come this afternoon. Had a long conversation with him this morning. What do you want me to do, Chris? Get behind this thing. I'm standing in front of the camera. He seemingly hasn't had an education committee meeting today. He had to move his, then he's having his general staff meeting now, and he's spending his energy trying to put together the formal package for the board retreat tomorrow. And in that we're not all over there helping him put the package together, we might be on the agenda. Could very well be. So let's have this conversation in a way. Let me see what this PowerPoint says. This is the PowerPoint that Dr. Belton will present tomorrow to the Board of Supervisors. And it really just starts out with a brief introduction of why we're in this conversation, what you want to get out of this meeting. And so this PowerPoint is really designed to help him. Do I need this for the people out in the state? Yes. Welcome to the. Welcome.
It's on.
Welcome to all the persons out in the state of Louisiana. We're so pleased that you've had the opportunity to join us from a distance. And hopefully we don't disenfranchise you by talking about things that you can't hear or see. We're going to go through a PowerPoint presentation that provides an option that hopefully leads the board to what is the best choice. Thank you, Cameron, for coming in for this discussion. And so as we go through this discussion, the intent is that if there's going to be a change to the College of Agriculture and a change to the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center, we'll put together a framework for making that decision. It ought to be an arbitrary decision. It ought to be based on facts with clearly thought out paths forward. And so in order to do that and help drive that conversation, what we attempted to do was with the input of a lot of people. And I want to thank Dr. Patek and the Southern University faculty and staff council for doing the great work that they've done and leading much of this conversation. This conversation we're having today is a continued conversation that started with the Belton, the president announcing that he was going to fill the position of chancellor for the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center. Getting down through that process, they got down where they had the 3 applicants who applied, had actually scheduled the interviews. And before the interviews could take place, they actually put a halt to it and stopped the process. And subsequent stopping the process, I think they made several trips to Washington, D.C. Out of those conversations with USDA, there was a notion that came out of that there was a lot of money being left on the table. And well, the conversation is, when you dig deep into the conversation, you find out that when Dr. Jim Lorenz restructured SUBR campus and dwindled it down from what X number of colleges to whatever it is now, there's been people felt disenfranchised. Ones feeling most disenfranchised may have been political science and maybe education and social and humanity. But somewhere close to that was having taken away the real strength of the university, and that's the land grant function, where the College of Agriculture, as it was, as we have known it, was merged into the College of Sciences and Agriculture. And when the new chancellor, new provost came in, Brown, he started that conversation, and I heard it early, so December, that much of the conversation is how do we enhance land grant, how do we move the College of Agriculture back to a full-fledged campus, and what would that look like? And even though that's going on one side of the track, and on the other side of the track, we're moving full steam ahead trying to get a chancellor for the Ag Center because Dr. Williams had retired. And somewhere between those two tracks, there was a collision and everything stopped. And that's when they paused and stopped the train and said, let's don't fill the chancellor's position. At first, when they didn't fill the position because I applied for it, I just thought they didn't think any three of us would qualify. They may still think that, but they just hadn't said that. And so we're gonna keep moving along with those we feel qualified, okay? And to that discussion, they sort of came together, and the discussion became that I think if we put the College of Agriculture together with the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center, we could have one viable, strong entity. Now, on both sides of the aisle, there's consensus that there is value in being together. There's some synergism that can be built, there's some efficiencies that can be built, and we just stronger together. But then the real question becomes, how do we do that? And how does the board make an informed decision so they don't disenfranchise the system, because we take pride in being the only system in the United States HBCU system, and that goes back. And so this presentation is designed to begin to walk you through, or walk the board through, or walk the president through, so he's comfortable ultimately making a recommendation to the board, and it brings enough data to the table that will drive that decision, and that is not a leap in logic, that there seems to be some systematic approach to it. Pretty good? Questions? And so that's what the first slide does. The second slide talks about just the creation of us, how we started, when did we start? In 1967, 1972, the Farm Bill of 1977, all went together because even though we celebrated 125 years last year of a land grant from 1990 to 2015, in a real sense, academics has been in business since that time. If you look at the real the graduates back in the early 1900s, many of the first class were actually agriculture majors. And so we've had an academic component, and we could rightfully celebrate almost 100 and whatever number of years, 25 years. But from a research standpoint, from a formula standpoint, from sustained funds, it was only through the 1977 Farm Bill that we started getting sustained money on a formula basis to do our work at the 1890 land grant colleges. Interesting with extension, prior to 1977, the money actually came to LSU and then came to Southern University. It was only in 1977 that we really started establishing our own people and getting them on our own payroll. Many of the people who retired, I guess Sarah and I and a few others were the first to actually get on Southern's payroll. Many of the others were on federal retirement and retired actually from LSU. And so this slide was intended to talk about how ground us in the Ag Center. So prior to 2000, Southern Extension was always housed at the president's level. It was always a systems function. Dr. Williams, Mr. Ashley Williams, all of them reported to the president of the Southern University system. The research and academic programs were always housed at the College of Agriculture level, reporting to a vice chancellor and then to the chancellor up to the president. And so what happened then is that we simply took research and extension, took research from the Baton Rouge campus, took extension from the system level, and created what we know now as the Southern University Agricultural Research and Extension Center. During that time, others will tell you, I mean, we have reasons that happened. It happened in 2000, but that conversation really has been going on for 20 years. I mean, you know, ever since I can, not ever since, but at least 20 years prior to 2000, there have been groups coming together trying to figure out how we could grow agriculture, how we could grow land grant programs to ensure that we would reap the same benefits that LSU reaped. LSU started out when it was in the College of Agriculture, it was a very small entity. And by 2000, LSU AgCenter's money from a state appropriation had grown to be more than Southern University's whole system. The LSU AgCenter appropriation was larger than the Southern University A&M system. And we thought that was not right. We ought to get some of that money. But the board probably didn't buy into that as much as they bought into the vulnerability of the system. During that time leading up to that conversation, to that action, there was discussion that the community college system was just coming on board as a structured entity. Then naturally, if they're going to create a new system for community college, it just makes sense to take Shreveport and do what? Put it into the community college system. You've eliminated one entity from the Southern University system. Now you're down to two. That's the SUBR and SUNO. And SUNO was vulnerable because they were talking about doing some work with UNO, and if they snatched that away from them, then you just got the SUBR system. The Law Center had been semi-functioning as a campus, but it never had received the designation. And so what the Board of Regents was putting together, its new plan for higher education, it just seemed right at that time to take a land grant, create the Ag Center, and make the Law Center formal at that time. And so then you move from 3 campuses to 5 campuses, and you can sustain the system even if you lost Shreveport campus. But we wanted it because we wanted to make certain that we increase our funding level. And so this is just an explanation of that and what happened structurally with that. And so the next slide really talks about, the next 5 or 6 slides will talk about options. When we thought about it and had a lot of discussion, what are the options? The options were to do nothing. One option was to take Ag Center. The premise in this conversation, let's move back and make sense. One of the things that all of us agreed to and wanted to happen and think is important for land grant is to have the College of Agriculture move from under sciences and reconstituted as a college. In order for that to happen, given resources and time and the connectivity of land grant, it then makes sense that the relationship, because we are family, between the College of Agriculture and the Ag Center have some connection. Correct? And what does that look like on paper and how does it function? Well, the first option was to do nothing, just leave them there. And so we know that it's not probably the most feasible option, but we put it on the table. The second option is to constitute everything, take the Ag Center from a campus and move it into the Baton Rouge campus and let it create the College of Agriculture with ag extension and ag research as a component of that. The third one is say, okay, Ag Center land grant is important, but let's move it to an associate provost level and under the Baton Rouge campus. So when you're in the Baton Rouge campus, you got some juice, but you're still not a campus, you're not an independent entity. You're still part of the college. The third one is to say, okay, let's take the fourth one is to actually then say, okay, what is the least you can get out of this by leaving it a campus and having the College of Ag come with it, and then make it as a standalone entity. And that says, okay, let's do a vice president and a dean. And then the final one is to keep a chancellor's title and we'll do a dean. And so we walk through those scenarios, and we decide what the pros and cons of doing that. I'm moving, guys. Y'all with me? I'm moving too fast. Okay. And so we look at pros and cons. We want to make certain that they sort of balance out. And we look at doing nothing, it has a lot of cons to it. And it has few pros. And so, and I'm not going to go through those. Because I mean, we have a state now, when you read the editorials, you read the newspaper, you listen to the legislature, there's a lot of conversation about the Board of Regents particularly, and the chairman of the Board of Regents, and the commissioner. I'm spending a lot of time saying that we've got too many colleges, we've got too many universities. We ought to take CNO and UNO, and we ought to just put them together. I mean, you read the editorial say Grambling, UL, Monroe, and Tech, all right there within the Grambling and Tech, what, about 5 miles apart? UL and Monroe is about another 25 miles apart, and all of them struggling, so let's take them all and roll them together. They even talked about we ought to roll Southern and LSU together some way. There's a conversation happened a couple of weeks ago that actually said that Southern University Ag Center and Southern University LSU Ag Center were about to merge. And so there's all these conversations going, so we know doing nothing probably doesn't make the best sense. We've got to do something. So how do we put it in a situation that we win? And so we went to option 2, what happens if you become, move it straight forward and become a college? And put Ag Center under the Southern University Ag Center, the SUBR College of Agriculture. What are the goods in that? And the good is that we speak with one voice. We can begin to get, so we got a college status, we've achieved that objective, and we've got leadership in place so that we can manage these three prongs, research and extension, under one kind of voice. And we can build some synergism through joint employment, through utilizing and maximizing our resources, and really put some things together. The downside of it is that you lose your college status. You lose the ability, at this point in the legislature, there is moving forward, the governor said last week, that the LSU will get $4 million, Penn will get $4 million, we get $1 million. We lose that independent status when we have our own line item in the budget, and we begin to lobby and manage that piece of money. If we're no longer a center, then we won't necessarily tag along with the others. We don't no longer look like and sound like LSU. And so people won't say, well, there's no accent. Is accent still there? No, it's not a college. Oh, they're okay. We ain't dealing with college. We're just dealing with non-formal higher education. When you look at non-formal higher education, it's LSU Ag Center, Pennington Biomedical Center, Southern University Ag Center. What's that other one? Lacom or something like that. It's some kind of marine thing down in the Gulf almost. And so those are the institutions that they look at. And we've been in the conversation for the last year talking about a formula for non-academic units. And we don't want to jeopardize that piece. And so we said, okay, let's not deal with that. Well, we're going to make the decision at the end. The third option was that, which has some merit, is that if you take the Ag Center and some universities who have a standalone campus, is not a system. Actually, you look around, there are some places where you have vice president for land grant program, vice president for outreach and extension, vice president at other capacity. And so being an associate vice chancellor would be equivalent to a non-system approach to moving land grant programs to a higher level than just a dean. Now you don't report to the associate vice chancellor, but associate vice provost, but then you are one of those. So you report directly to the provost, and then you move and behave a little bit different within the Baton Rouge within the Baton Rouge system, SU Baton Rouge. And so we thought about that. But at the same time, the same negatives about being a chancellor, being a dean alone, the same negatives still haunt you and follow you along. When the system becomes vulnerable because they have lost their campus, and all the things that accrue to us, including being able to make federal match and everything, minimized because we don't have the money. We won't be guaranteed. We're not guaranteed, but we won't look right to be where we can advocate for those kinds of things. And so, as we think, so there's 5, we've gone through 3 of them. The fourth one has history in some ways, because to be a vice president / dean then says that to the board and everybody that it's sort of like, it looks like what LSU has. They took the president, took the chancellor from dean of Richardson and moved him to a vice president title and gave him dean, and now he managed the entire enterprise. And so that has merit. And it still brings the one voice. It still keeps the College of Ag in contact as an independent college. The potential downsides to it is that now you are saying you're a campus, but all your colleagues who are sitting at the table are what? Chancellors. And so are you really a campus? You have a relationship with the provost, who also reports to the president, and how you work that out. And are you able to really definitively stay a campus? And are you intertwined so that now you are campus in name, but you don't have the wherewithal to function as a campus? And that's part of the conversation we just had at 11:30 that kept us in the meeting until now, is because you want to come and develop a relationship with Baton Rouge campus, they began to think of you less as a campus and as an integrated function, and now they want to start talking about how can we save money on the back office functions. Now that we got you in the college together, do you need finance? Do you need IT? Do you need planning and control? Do you need communication? Do you need these back office functions? So my question to the president this morning, are you having that same conversation with the Law Center? Are you having the same conversation with Shreveport and New Orleans? Because somehow just having this conversation seemed to say that we want to say you're a campus, but we don't really believe you want it. Okay? Because we think now, because we about to get married, we can just go on, you can give up your house and just come on, move into my house, and everything will be good. Don't leave the children over there at the other house now. But we're going to take care of it. Sounds like a problem to me. But it's not one we can't work out. We just got to be conscious that we understand and we deliberate very carefully, that we know all the nuances. Because every consequence has an unintended consequence. And many times we get excited about the decision and the results of it, but we forget about the unintended consequences. And then you find yourself, and that's how we end up getting many good things that appeared on the surface is good. If you read the paper this morning, the fight on medical marijuana has to deal with consequences and unintended consequences. Fred Mills, who's proposing medical marijuana, said it's going to help a lot of people, and I'm for that. Then Francis Thomas said, yeah, but a lot of junkies going to come out of it too. So I don't want back in folks, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren doing medical marijuana, because they're going to start being dope addicts. And whether that's a true unintended consequence or as an alarm, who knows? But the point is that every consequence brings about the unintended consequences. And what we're trying to do is position ourselves so that we think about both sides very clearly, and to the degree that we can make some rational decisions about that. Because some will say the train is left the track, and you aren't going to stop the train from rolling. I mean, you can only get rolled over. But we think that there's still time to have some conversation where the win-wins are. And so our final option, I've talked about it in essence, is keeping the chancellor, keeping the title as a chancellor and a dean. And the pros of obviously you've got everything to look like everybody else. You can begin to more defend and define yourself as a campus, and you make certain that people respect and appreciate you. That we've gained a great reputation, and we have a brand that runs throughout the state of Louisiana. That's what I was planning on having you do, Christopher Rogers, as you talked to Gabe, was that I wanted to put in that package the brand, so that we show all our signs out over the world, and we can show that we got a brand that's recognized and appreciated. We don't want to minimize that brand. The downside of it is that the government may look at you, the legislators, who are looking for some action to take place, and they don't see it happening. And therefore, they don't recognize it and appreciate you for it. And in some way, go out to penalize you for it. So at the end of the day, the president's presentation will have all these 5 options up, and somebody will make a vote, and he will make a recommendation. When I talked to him today, and I talked, those who were in the meeting with him yesterday, can, I guess, attest to the fact that what he's recommending is option 4. He's recommending that we move forward with creating keeping Southern University, first establish the College of Agriculture, the name is yet debated, and moving it with the college and with the Ag Center, creating a vice president and Dave's position, and then get that concept approved by the board on Friday. And after that, move full steam ahead, trying to figure out the next steps forward to make certain that this is doable and implemented for July 1. I mean, that's what he could probably tell you, that's what I've told him. What you got? Any questions, any conversation? Did I miss anything? And so, that being said, please, so let's talk about it. Okay. What will happen? Yes, sir, Oscar Rose.
Option 4 and 5, they're good, but as before, when we started the SUAgCenter, I hate to think that I'm old, and I've seen all these things. When we started the SUAgCenter, the problem was with the Baton Rouge campus leadership, because they never agreed to the MOU with regards to the dean of the college being 25% SUAgCenter and joint appointment for the faculty. So those 2 options are good, but we need to push real hard for the MOU. Make sure that we have that MOU, because the vice president dean or the chancellor dean working with the provost, that will be critical in relation to students and the performance and all those things that are needed for SAT. I think we have most of the other items in place, but we need to think through the MOU, because you never know, this leadership will go away after a while, like it did before, and then the new people come in and everything is confused and messed up again. So we want to make sure that it's established and written, documented, so that anybody that comes in the leadership at the system level will always understand that these are the things that need to be done. If we have to amend it in the future, it's good, but for now, we need to establish that. And also, I support it in so many ways. We will maintain the campus, the funding, and we will be, most of all, accountable to USDA NIFA for the funds that we receive. Because right now, we have fuzzy math all over the place about time and effort. And we don't need that to continue, because if that continues and we get an audit, we may be in bad shape. Somebody will have to refund some money to the federal government. So if we have vice chancellor dean or chancellor dean, then this individual will look across the board, teaching, research, and extension, and we'll see how to infuse to increase enrollment while still being accountable to the federal government.
Right. I don't want us to, I'm perfectly with you. I want us to always think of the federal government. I also want us to think that state money is important. And we want to do what it takes to get state monies and keep them. A couple things to that point. One is that our discussion today, we wrote an MOU, had it signed by the 2 chancellors and the president for finance. That's still in place. They never implemented one time. Had no value. We had to sign, seal, and put on the ship. So MOUs are good, but we've got to figure out how to put the the action plan in place so it happens the way it happens. And that the leadership is able to always go back to somewhere, and so we start this thing out on the right foot. I mean, that's gonna be critically important, is knowing what the right foot is and making sure that we live up to that day in and day out. Because my experience is that MOUs are just, they don't have the teeth sometimes that they need to have. You just agree that people, but your point is, and so part of going into this thing, and I think that's what we're talking about tomorrow, before I move to anybody else, tomorrow and the other day, the emphasis has to be on, I think, one is that everything is, I mean, to have a vice president and dean, if that's what he's recommending, has his attributes. But let's make certain we minimize the deficits. And what the deficits are you talking about? Being conscious that the money, the federal money, can only be used for certain things. And it won't supplant monies that you think you don't have. And so if we're gonna do this, it's gonna require serious investment in state monies to get where we want to get. I mean, that's number one. You know, that's critically important. You can't not grow to the level you need to grow without making an investment. That's the bottom line. Secondly, you've got to have a relationship so that you understand that at the end of the day, where the ultimate buck stops at. So that you don't get caught being pulled and snatched from one point to another. 1 minute, you know, and I've talked to Dr. Brown about it, but you know, how many people go to Washington and speak to Southern University on ag property? I mean, how do we make certain that if we do go to Washington, you go to Washington, I go to Washington, we aren't saying conflicting things. Because you're going to confuse your partners if there are multiple bosses. And so we have to get to a point that we at least, if we can't control it, we at least got to point out that for agriculture land grant programs, this system that you put in place ought to become the boards for agriculture as it relates to Southern University. And then we drive that through and down the line. How do you begin to stay as campus, and if you give up all your back office functions? How do you not do that? And what else is entailed in this thing what are you thinking about? Because one of the things we always have to do is when you go to a table of negotiation, what are your thoughts? And what's a win for you, and what's a win for, and are we gonna be serious, or are we gonna be disingenuous in this conversation? So this meeting tomorrow and Friday probably is the beginning, as I see it. It's critical, but if everybody moves to the one model, the devil's in the details. How do we put it in place and implement it is really where we get juice at. And maybe our conversation around that is how do we ensure that when it's all said and done, we have representation to make a critical input into the way that it rolls out, ultimately by July 1. July 1, you figure out that tomorrow is what? Friday's what, 22nd? The next board meeting is on May 13th, and then the next board meeting is probably June. So you've got 2 board meetings between tomorrow and the next time to have something ready for be put in place July 1. And what does it mean to put it in place July 1? I mean, does it mean that you just have it in name and it start functioning, and then you build a system after July 1? Or do you build a system, including budget, before July 1 so that you can become effective in July 1? Which are 2 basically different things, because if you're building the budget, that means you got to build everybody in slots. You got to have knowing where their money's going to come from and what the whole apparatus look like, so that come July 1, you roll it. You can have a name, and you could even have somebody potentially in the spot of leadership there, and then that person comes in and rolls out the plan for the next semester, and it takes effect some other time. So those are the kind of questions we refuse to ask. But you know, if anybody else feel like asking, ask. Other questions or concerns? Yes, sir. For the people out in the field.
My name is Calvin Ruben Walker. I serve as chair of Agricultural Sciences and Urban Forestry. For this week, I do believe that when we go to the retreat, we should be with one voice. Those that are coming It may be counterproductive to go there with options different than that of the president. He is going forward with option number 4. It would be it'd show a lot of disunity if the people that we have coming is talking about option 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we need to
1,
be,
2, 3, and 5. And it just.
yes, so we need to be on one accord by saying we're with the president and we're with option 4. And that would certainly help him. And I think it would help the agricultural family, whether it be the Ag Center or the academic programs.
What you think?
What do you think?
Everybody like what Calvin just said? Oh, we just don't give a whole about what
I would
Calvin.
like to know which one of the options do you think would be better? Yeah,
That's a two-part question. Which one I think would be better, and which one do I think get passed? See, because I don't want to go at something and lose everything. And so what do I think is best? Obviously, the best one is the Chancellor Dean's position. Can I get that passed? Can we get 9 votes to get it done? If the president go offer option 4? Probably not. What I don't want to do is, part of our urgency and our alert, being alert and our alarm is that we don't want 1, 2, and 3. And so we can play with 3, 4, and 5, but we absolutely don't want 1, 2, and 3. So our message is that we just don't think anything good can happen between 1 and 3. Okay? And then y'all can play out 4 and 5 any way you want to. That's my position. Everybody good? I mean, Dr. Cyrus, you got a funny look on your face. What you thinking about? What you like back there? You got some politics. What you like?
It doesn't matter to me.
Doctor got a matter, but the job may be involved.
What I'm saying, most of the time when the information of this station get to the field, the decision already made. And regards to how you may call it, if we hit the street, deal is done. That's where I'm from.
Okay, let me do this for you, Mahomes. Every Republican in the United States is trying to, just about 70% of them, let's say 80% of them, trying to kick Trump's butt. He beat New York like a drum. He won New York like a drum. When the people come there, they didn't want to change Egypt. They didn't want to change a bunch of those countries. When the folks roll out, they make things different. You roll in and you walk in and you can't get in, can't nobody get out. And things happen. So we what we believe we can become. So I don't know if it's a done deal until the 9 folks raise their hand. But I'm with you, Doc. The same thing is if it's out in the streets in the past. Yes, sir.
I got what if they can't decide on a joint or either plan? What happens then?
The likelihood of that happening is nil. If they don't decide on anything, we keep going to work every morning doing what we've been doing.
So we'll be with number 1.
Yes, with no action. That is when no decision is a decision, is option 1.
Yes, Dr. Brown, I have a quick question. Given those options, I understand which one's probably better for the Ag Center, but as the president is trying to make a decision based on the issue, campus in general or the system in general, which one of those are best for the system in general? And also from a longevity perspective, if we are still facing a dwindling budget, what's the chance that if we do choose option 4, we have to come back again next year, next fiscal, process of season, just to kind of restructure what the option that we're already waiting for now?
Good question, man. You sound like you're talking to the board members and you're representative over there in my member. You're one of them ultra conservatives. Good points, though. One is that the president is the chancellor president. He runs the system and Baton Rouge campus. So every time he speaks to us in the Ag Center, we hope that he's speaking as president.
and what's best for the system. We know that he's got to speak for what's best for that Beach campus. In option 4, we think preserves the 3 or 4, I mean 4 or 5, going to preserve the college and going to preserve the system. Now you can play with the money any way you want to. Can there be any deficiencies? The federal money has to be spent for what it is allocated for. How are we going to grow the center? Just talk about history. The way we grew the center is by first and foremost finding ways to get more state money. The first thing we got was $1 million from tobacco, dedicated through whatever that was, tobacco taxes, for the Ag Center, because it was an Ag Center. And then we got $750,000 from the state government for parimutuel, because the Southern University Ag Center was an Ag Center. Then we turned around and we settled desegregation in 2005, and we locked that at one point $750,000 with $1 million, and then they gave us $1.65 thousand to make it $3.4 million for land grant settlement because it was the Ag Center. Recognize when they deal with desegregation suit, which started back in what I think the first consent decree was in '84. And in '84 we got the what? The small, that's what we got. We got what they call it, the research, the small farm center.
Center for Small Farm Research.
Center, say it again.
Center for Small Farm Research.
And as soon as the agreement expired, what happened to that money? They killed it. They killed it. The money was gone. So we said that we weren't happy with it. Then they came back in 91, 92, 93, no, it must have been, if it was 2005, 10 years from now would have been what, 95. And in 95, they settled higher education, land grant, desegregation suit. And at that time, they negotiated everything, all academic programs, with the exception, all academic programs. The only thing they did not negotiate was land grant. And land grant at that time was research and extension. It became too contentious. SUAgCenter say, leader at that time said, let's give them they ain't gonna do nothing with it anyway, give them $250,000. Give them some outrageous figure, just give them all out of it. And Dr. Dolores Spikes, who was president at that time, said, absolutely not. We'll go to court before we sell for pennies. And so they settled, and how did agriculture benefit from the 95 land grant program? That is about 95 desegregation suit. Huh? We got a PhD in what? Urban forestry. Those programs came through the 95 desegregation suit. And so academics had gone out and asked for what they wanted. And I don't know if we didn't ask for what we wanted, because when we were negotiating with LSU at that time, Phil's wanted a PhD in ag education. And they told them we have no students in BS, and they wouldn't agree to it. But we negotiated hard. We got the best we could get out of academics. And at that time, it was enhancement by and large. Southern University wanted to move from a research to become a research two-tier institution, whatever that you had. They have 5 PhDs or something to do with it at that point. And so that was how that was settled. So in 2005, we came back and said, okay, just before the consent decree expired, we said we really need to deal with this before it expired. And that's when we got one board member, Joseph, to say, okay, he'll take the torch. He went to the board, and he went to the board, and he went to the board, and we finally got some discussion. But recognize that many of you all, maybe not many of you all, maybe a few of you all, including Cameron, maybe Sabatu and others, somewhere between 95 and 2005, we met with LSU over a series of times and came up with a little thick book about how we're going to settle desegregation with land grant. That didn't go anywhere. But the only thing that led to, in large part, was the creation of the Ag Center. It didn't lead to any money. And it was in 2005, I'm going to get to your question, that we went back and settled it, and we got that piece of money. And subsequent, last 2 years ago, we got $3 million. And it unfortunately turned out to be one-time money. 2 of them they took straight away, and the other they took real quickly after a year. But my point being is that the likelihood of growing and sustaining the Ag Center is geometrically enhanced by being a center versus being a college. Now, we can manage our resources as best we can, but we gotta make certain all our brothers manage their monies as well. So what's best for the center? And this is a situation where it's best for all of us. The Backwoods campus, the system, and the Ag Center to be going with option 4 or 5. Yes. Yes, sir.
Yes, I think you put out Dr. Brown earlier that, the high level of cuts in terms of, personnel, within, particularly the College of Agriculture. And I'm wondering, I also observed that over the last few years, as all these cuts were made, in my opinion, the academic, was hurt because we always, they got to have folks who were the best suited for handling classes and things of that nature. But I know it's a two-sided street, so my question is, in what ways does this reorganization enhance both the Ag Center and the college?
Let me do it.
And how would that change job descriptions?
Let me say this, Doc. I think I'm gonna have a moment to it just to do it. One is we can talk about what I think it does, but then we can talk about what I think it does not do. And job descriptions, it really gets down to, are there any efficiencies that can be gained in administration, faculty, and staff positions? Is there any synergism that we can have by having joint people, money saved that can go to the classroom, by having people who were 100% administration now doing other things? I don't know, but that's an option that we're going to look at. Correct? You know, because you got to have leadership in both, and how can that work out so that you give the right attention to the right entity at the right time, at the right level? Secondly, there can be synergism. I think Oscar and some people working on it. I'm certain Calvin got his version of it too, that we're going to merge together. We take every faculty member in the Ag Center, we take and categorize it. What you got? You got a BS in this, you got an MS in this, you got a PhD in that. What's your strong suit? For administrators all the way back down. We do the same on the Backwoods campus. We take everybody and we line up the credentials. You got a PhD in animal science, you got a BS in this, and you got a BS and MS and something else. Line it up based on facts criteria. What are you eligible to teach in the College of Agriculture? And then we say, okay, we have 3 faculty members in the Ag Center who are 100% who can teach in a discipline. We've got 2 in agriculture, and then College of Ag that can teach it. That gives us 5 people, but we got to figure out how do we make that work? How do we take the people 100% extension, 100% of research, and give them an extension, a teaching appointment? The only way we're going to be able to do that if, in fact, they give us state money to do it. And so we've got to make certain that when we get into this enterprise, we can only leverage dollars if they put another pool of money in place that helps support academics. So you give me 1 faculty, or give whomever 1 faculty member in academics, and can we turn that into 2 faculty members, and can we turn it into 3? How do we, if they're comparable levels of expertise that deals with a certain discipline? So, so that's how, now how do we, what we can't do is we can't go back. Putting us together, in economics they teach what? There's a necessary condition, but there's also a sufficient condition. It's necessary to put us put together to begin to do that. The sufficient condition, to make it sufficient, we gotta have extra money. I mean, to really do it in court the way it needs to go. And in all our conversation with Provost Brown or with President Belton, is that if you really want this to work, we've got to figure out how much money you're going to bring to the table. I'm not spending a lot of time on the history of it. We know that since the last 20 years, they've eliminated faculty members out of the college and not replaced them, especially in the agriculture area. Economics, plant, soil science, horticulture, the whole nine yards. And so if we're gonna grow that, and we can prove that there's a workforce demand that they need growing, that if we put people there, we can get them, when we get them out, we get them employed, and we get them professional, whatever, then we've got to go make those arguments. But the administration has to be conscious of front what you get and what you don't get. I mean, what seems to be driving them at times is that we can put it together, we can take money and do whatever we want to. And the end result of that is that you end up like South Carolina, Virginia State. When the government comes in and tells you got to pay $7 million back, it's new, you got to get it in before the banks close that evening. And then you have to go out and play out bankruptcy for the whole university. So the best way to do it is do it right up front.
You can also address what LSU is doing to increase recruitment since.
Dr. Eubanks, you want to speak to what LSU is doing?
I didn't hear you.
He said what LSU is doing to recruit.
Student recruitment since the.
Investments that we made since the merger took place was in recruitment and development. A large amount of dollars have gone into recruitment and development. They've hired individuals throughout the state and all of the regions that recruit as well as do communication. They've hired a development officer and a development team, and all they do is raise money.
So LSU probably is in a better position than we are in some regards. As far as faculty is concerned, and I should ask the question rather than presumption, but I think their capacity on the faculty side and the human resource side was probably better than our position is. And that we probably need some faculty members badly. And we need to work on that. On the recruitment side, to the degree that they have hired people, that becomes problematic and challenging to us somewhere. How do we hire a designated recruiter? We've got to work that out and figure out how it looks. On the development side, we've got to figure that out in the bigger sense. Because the real money, let me go and say, the real money seems to be in higher education is not in teaching and extension. The real money is doing research grants that helps academic programs, that help extension programs, interdisciplinary research. So we've got to figure out how we can get $1 million grants on a consistent basis that can help us with research so that we can do more teaching and more extension work. And so whether we get a development person, and there's a lot of money, well, there's a lot of money on either side, but how we build capacity, and it's probably on extension. Teaching, the grants seem to be fairly small, they seem to be enhancement. If you look at higher education throughout the United States of America, higher education is a function that's controlled by the state. I mean, they have a Department of Education, but it's primarily for K through 12, and even K through 12 is a state-controlled function. You have school boards, you have the leadership at the state level, but it's controlled when you make good policy. Higher education is no different. Academic has always been funded primarily by the state. Where you get your money from the federal level is that you get it for academic enhancement, internships, and it's all about trying to get people ready for the workforce. It's not about basic teaching and bells and whistles. Now we can go out on the private side and public grants and contracts through foundations and try to recruit money, but you got to have the base. And then as the government moves more toward, and as grants and contracts move more to match one-to-one, some level of match, then you've got to have discretionary monies if you're going to grow your grants and contracts. And it all speaks to having state monies or some money or some fundraising money that we can do to do those things. It's easier to talk about it than actually get out there and do it. A lot easier. Yes, sir. What you got?
Yeah, I got a quick question. Do we have something that we can do to make the Ag Center less dependent upon, just state funds and federal funds? Like, for example, I know one of the things that the Ag Center does at LSU, with their research, they produce products. It could be a sweet potato, it could be a rice variety based on the research. Is there something that we can do to help generate money from the research that we do to try to alleviate or at least make it a little less, us less dependent on the federal budget overall.
Maybe, you know, I think we got some jams, jellies, or products. We got hibiscus, what you call your product, Curtis? No, what you call, what's the name of it though? Godam. We got some Godam we trying to get to the market. We got some jellies we trying to get to the market. We got some juices we trying to get to the market. We've got some things we've got to figure out how to do that. We've got to put all the bells and whistles. We've got to figure out what we're going to say about it, and we've got to make certain that we bridge the gap between commercialization between the researchers and the person who will commercialize it. And to some degree, Ursula in here? Ursula, you with me? Ursula, how you coming with that, Ursula?
Slow process.
She's a slow process. We hired Ursula to help us begin to think about that. Ursula has a master's in ag and law. And though it's not intellectual property, we've asked her to begin to shore up her skill sets by studying and figuring out how do we, not that she would become the attorney, but she could bridge that gap, understand what's the step between, some of it we've got to do some research, and we've got to have the safety features and all that to verify that every time you make a glass of this, it's got this in it, it's consistent, that when you put it on the shelf, it's not going to disintegrate, it's not going to all become something else. We don't want to put no juices out there that turn out to become wine if you leave them out there. Children sit up in the store, up in school, drink the juice, and they end up drunk. You know, we got to make sure that doesn't happen. You know, Marvin might go up, you know, they're going to sue us on the backside. And we just go do that. We got to make sure that it is what it is. And then we got to figure out how to preserve the intellectual property right and how to take that, how do we create value? Do we actually put it on the market ourselves, or do we commercialize it and sell the value to some other company, and then they take it from us and move it forward? And so and we got to start the process. We got to start the process. But the same thing can be true to books writing. We've got folks writing books, and we've got doing all these things. So we've got to figure out how we begin to capture our intellectual property rights. How do we distribute it between the person who created the university, and how we get money going forward for that? But that's our goal. Yes, ma'am.
To add on to this point, at Earth Day Sunday, they were asking if we sell the cheese that they were sampling. And they had people that came and brought their grandmother to try the jelly that we had last year. So it's out there and they want it, we just have to get it.
Yeah, we got to do it. I mean, you know, the person becomes important too. We got to do it. The other point is that when I talk to Dr. Chen, they don't like me to tell you I've been talking to him, but I talk to him. And it has to deal with, do we compete against the private sector? My answer is yes, but you know, is it our job to put it out there, and then how do we pass it on to, you know, because you take hibiscus for instance. There are people who come here, got the knowledge, they take the hibiscus and move it, and they got products and they selling them and doing all that good stuff. Same thing if they find out, if they take that cheese and take it, throw it, run it through a lab, they may be making that cheese today and actually selling it. So we've got to figure out how to move that forward enough. How do we get what we need out of it? How do we make sure that the private sector takes, whomever they are, our clients get it? Because they want the hibiscus, they want the wine. We had a wine tasting thing over at the what was that thing over at the Don Wade's house. Yes. And they stayed around the glass, didn't they? Stayed around the bottle. Yeah, we were just happy. There's some good wine. That was the first sip. So it didn't change us. So I think that we got to figure that out. Everybody good. We got our marching orders. We know what we're gonna do and when we're gonna do it. We know where the landmines are buried, and we know where we're gonna put some at. Cameron, you've been pretty quiet.
Oh no, I think you have a good point. I think the stress comes from the state. You know, pretty much they're governed with what the state is trying to do. And reform is the name of the game. So the question is that, are we gonna do our own reform or wait for someone else to do the reform for us? The strengthening agriculture is the name of the game. So the model that you presented, I think we should back President, because not long ago we had, and of course Justin is President Chancellor, not long ago we had a Chancellor who wanted to shut down agriculture from this land grant institution. So I think, it is maybe the opportune time to strengthen our position, make sure academic areas grow, along with research dollars coming in and extension and all of that, to create more energy for growth into the future. And I think to be in par with College of Engineering or business or nursing, we should have that prominence. So I'm looking at it from the opportune time, and I back, Dr. Delton on this. And I think Model 4, probably you're right. I think that probably would get more traction. That's my point of view.
Yeah, I was talking to, I think it was Walker, he called me one night late. I watched Walker Ranger at 9, I don't like to be disturbed from 9 to 10. You called me. You're talking about BEN. What is BEN? Business, engineering, and nursing, right?
Yes.
And I said, let's just make it ABN.
Well, I'm saying B.
BEN. Now, I wanted ABN. I mean, BEAN. I said, no, let's go ABEN. I don't know what it means, but it sounds good. My last comment, I got a grandson, y'all probably seen him. I had 3 children, still got them. But every now and then they come to my house. And they be sitting down talking, Daddy, we'll do this. Johnny doing that over his house. And I remind them that at this house, we know what's best for this house. And Sue over in Lafayette, John in Washington, D.C. might know in general what is best for agriculture at Southern University. But who knows what's best in agriculture? It's us. And so you have to be very careful, as I tell my children, not to let everybody come in and try to influence how you behave. They will tell you don't need a Southern University system. You ought to just go Seymour Wade, Shreveport, and the Law Center and make Baton Rouge strong. That don't work for us at Southern University. We want a system and we're going to keep all our children. Well, some will come and tell you don't need the Ag Center. Put it in the College of Agriculture. That might work in Mississippi, Missouri, Illinois, Alaska, but at Southern University of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, what works well is having an Ag Center and College of Agriculture. And so I think we have to admonish anybody who wants to bring a little bit of information from anywhere to try to influence what happens in our house. We ought to work our butts off to drive how we run our business, but be clear and objective. We don't not make decisions when they're the right decisions to make, but we be careful how we let others influence our decision unduly, and because they will always yank the chain.
Okay, let's give our interim chancellor another round of applause. We're bringing some quick snacks to the back. We have
I have some chips here.
We have maybe 30-minute break. We have a 30-minute break. We'll begin at 3 o'clock with Dr. Burke.
In the committee. Yeah, I'll start now.
Okay, we're going to begin again at 3 o'clock, so we have a quick break, and we have some refreshments in the back for you to enjoy. But at 3 o'clock, let's get back in our seats and ready to go.